The rain fell hard on the busy city street. People rushed under umbrellas, cars splashed through puddles, and streetlights flickered in the grey afternoon. In the middle of it all stood a man, dry under the shelter of a tall office building. He looked around with cold eyes, watching the world like it was beneath him. His name was Mr. Rajiv Mehra. Rajiv wore a black suit, shiny shoes, and a watch that cost more than most people made in a month. He was the kind of man who never waited in lines, never said please or thank you, and never believed in helping others. He thought kindness was a weakness. In his world, money ruled, and he had plenty of it. Rajiv ran a big real estate company. He built tall buildings, bought land from poor farmers, and paid people as little as possible. If someone couldn't pay rent, he kicked them out. If an old woman cried at his office door, he simply told the guards to remove her. He believed in one thing only: profit. Life is a game, he often said, and I play to win. But life has its own rules, and it doesn't forget. One rainy morning, Rajiv walked into his office with a frown. His driver was late, his coffee was cold, and the elevator stopped at every floor on the way up. When he finally reached his office, his assistant stood nervously outside the door. "Sir," she said quietly, "there's a man waiting for you inside." He wouldn't leave. Rajiv narrowed his eyes. "What man?" "He says he's from a village where you bought land last year." Rajiv pushed the door open and walked in. An old man with a wrinkled face and torn sandals stood near the desk. Water dripped from his clothes. His eyes looked tired but calm. "Who let you in?" Rajiv barked. "This is not a tea shop." The old man didn't flinch. He simply looked at Rajiv and said, "Do you remember Kedah village?" Rajiv rolled his eyes. "I've bought land in many places." "You bought our land," the old man said. "But you lied. You promised jobs, a school, a well for clean water. You took everything and gave nothing." Rajiv waved his hand. "Business is business. We gave you money. You agreed. You gave money to one man," the old man said quietly. "He tricked the rest of us. Now, our children drink dirty water. The fields are dry, and people are leaving." Rajiv leaned back in his chair, annoyed. "I don't have time for this. Go cry to the government." The old man stood silently for a moment, then said something Rajiv would remember forever. "Money can buy land, but not peace. You will learn this, not from me, from life." Then he walked out. That night, Rajiv forgot all about the old man. He had dinner at a 5-star hotel, laughed with rich friends, and went to bed without a care in the world. But something had changed. The next morning, his driver crashed the car. No one was hurt, but Rajiv was late for a big meeting. Then, his bank called. There was a small problem with one of his accounts. Nothing serious, but still annoying. A few days later, a client pulled out of a major deal. Then another, and another. "What's going on?" Rajiv shouted at his staff. "Why are people backing out?" No one had answers. At home, his wife began to complain. "You're always angry," she said. "You never listen. Even our daughter avoids you." "I work hard for this family," Rajiv yelled. But deep inside, he felt a strange emptiness. Then, something happened that shook him. One evening, as Rajiv left his office, he saw a little boy sitting on the sidewalk. The boy had no shoes, just a torn shirt and a bag of old books. Rajiv's car splashed water near him as it pulled up. The boy didn't move. He just kept reading. Rajiv looked again. The boy looked familiar. He asked his driver to stop. He walked over. "Hey," he said, "what are you doing here? Where are your parents?" The boy looked up. "My father lost his job. We live in a shelter now. I come here to study." "The light is good." Rajiv paused. "Why do you study on the street?" "Because I want to become someone. I want to help people like us." Those words hit Rajiv harder than he expected. He stared at the boy for a long time. That night, he couldn't sleep. He thought of the old man, of the village, of the boy, of all the people he had stepped on to climb higher, and for the first time in years, he asked himself, "Was I wrong?" A few weeks later, Rajiv's company was hit with a legal case. A farmer from Kedah claimed the land was taken illegally. More villagers joined. Media caught the story. Cameras flashed. Reporters asked questions. Rajiv tried to stay calm. We followed the law, he told them, but the damage was done. Old investors left. New ones didn't come. His company's name was stained. His bank accounts were frozen. And in the middle of it all, his daughter wrote him a note. It said, "You taught me that money is everything, but I think love matters more. I'm going to live with Mom's sister for a while." Rajiv sat alone in his big, empty house that night. Everything he built was falling apart. He remembered the old man's words, "You will learn. Not from me, from life." And life was teaching him, slowly, painfully, but clearly. The next morning, Rajiv did something no one expected. He took a train to Kedah village. He didn't wear a suit. He didn't bring guards. He just walked through the dry fields, past broken huts, until he found the same old man sat nearby, feeding birds. Rajiv walked up and sat beside him. "I came to say sorry," he said. The old man nodded, slowly. "And what will you do next?" "I don't know," Rajiv said. "But I want to help, for real this time." The old man looked at him, long and hard. "Karma doesn't punish," he said. "It teaches. If you're ready to learn, you can still change." For the first time in his life, Rajiv listened, and in that quiet village, under the open sky, the man who once thought he was better than everyone began to change. The sun rose gently over the fields of Kedah. The village was quiet, peaceful, but tired. The land had not seen good rain in months. The well was dry. Children walked barefoot to a small broken school building. Mothers cooked with little firewood. Old men sat under neem trees, watching the world go by. But something new was happening. A man who once took everything was now walking through the village with a notebook in his hand and wearing in his heart, Rajiv Mehra. He had returned. Not as a rich businessman, not in a shiny car, and not with bodyguards, but as a man seeking forgiveness. And more than that, a man trying to make things right. He stayed in the village, in a small room at the edge of a farm. No air conditioning, no soft bed, no servants. He washed his own clothes. He ate what the villagers ate: simple rice, lentils, and roti. At first, people looked at him with suspicion. Children pointed, women turned away. Men shook their heads. "He's just acting." Someone whispered, "He'll leave once he gets bored," said another. "Let's wait and watch," said the old man who once warned him. But Rajiv stayed. He woke up early, walked to the broken school, and cleaned the yard. He spoke to the teacher and offered to bring books. He met the women who walked 3 kilometers to get water and promised to fix the old well. He sat with the village head and asked about crops, land, and loans. He wrote everything down. One evening, a little girl named Chucky came up to him. "Are you the man who took our land?" she asked, eyes wide. Rajiv knelt down. "Yes," he said quietly. "Then why are you cleaning the school?" She asked. "Because I made a mistake," he replied. She blinked. "Will you leave again?" "Not until I make things better," he promised. From that day, Chucky followed him everywhere, asking questions, pointing out broken things, and even drawing pictures of how the school should look. She became his little helper. Weeks passed. Slowly, the village began to change. Rajiv used his own money to bring engineers to dig a deep new well. Fresh water started flowing. He repaired the school roof and brought tables, chairs, and books. He opened a small health center with a nurse who visited twice a week. But more than that, he listened. He met with farmers and learned how land had changed. He spoke to women's groups about skills training. He started a loan fund for small village businesses. And he promised not to take another inch of village land without full meetings and fair terms. The villagers, who once turned their backs, now began to nod at him. Some even greeted him with half smiles. Children waved. Women brought him tea. The village head called him by one day and Rajiv almost cried. One night, he sat with the old man near the well. "I didn't know life could feel like this," Rajiv said. The old man smiled. "What does it feel like?" "Real, honest, heavy ... but peaceful. That is what you are missing," the old man said. "Peace doesn't come from gold or glass towers. It comes when your hands do honest work, and your heart carries no guilt." Rajiv looked up at the stars. For the first time in years, they seemed bright. But not everyone was happy with his change. Back in the city, news spread. Media told the story of a cold businessman turned village reformer. Some called it fake, some called it brilliant. But his old business partners called it betrayal. Why are you wasting money on these people? One of them shouted on a phone call, "You're throwing away your power." Said another, "Come back, Rajiv, we can fix the company. We can fix your image." But Rajiv had changed. "I'm not coming back to fix an image," he said. "I'm fixing myself." He left the company. He sold his flat in the city. He used the money to start a new foundation for rural schools, clean water, and honest land. Months passed, seasons changed, and so did Rajiv. He wasn't perfect. He still got angry sometimes, he still didn't like mosquitoes, and he still missed his daughter. But even that was healing. One afternoon, as he sat under a banyan tree, a car arrived. A girl stepped out. His daughter. She looked older than he remembered, stronger, but her eyes were the same. "Papa," she said softly. Rajiv stood frozen. She walked closer. "I saw your video online. I read about what you're doing. I'm trying," Rajiv whispered, "to be better." She hugged him. "You already are." And just like that, something inside him unlocked. The last piece of the heavy guilt he carried melted in her arms. She stayed for a week. She helped paint the school walls with pictures of birds, trees, and stars. She played with the village children. And at night, she sat with her father, asking him questions, listening to stories, and finally seeing the man he was becoming. One evening, Chucky ran up and asked, "Uncle Rajiv, will you stay forever?" Rajiv smiled. "As long as I'm useful," she nodded. "Then you'll stay forever." Years later, people forgot about the businessman Rajiv Mehra, but they remembered the man who brought water back to Kedah, the man who helped build a new school, who listened to farmers, who taught that karma is not about punishment but about balance. Life had taught him. He had listened, and he had changed. The man who once walked over others now walked beside them. The man who once built towers of glass now built lives of hope. And in doing so, he found something more valuable than money, more lasting than fame. He found peace.